Here.
All right. Well, we've got 25 people on the call, so I feel like everyone's here. And it is 6:30. So without further ado, if it's okay with everyone, I'm going to start. As a preliminary matter, my name is Mary Beth Lynch. I'm the chairperson. Please permit me to confirm that all members and staff are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Paul George.
Here.
Lisa Cosette.
Here.
Patrick Mulcahy. I'm sorry, Peter Mulcahy.
Here.
All right, Patrick Fullen.
Here.
Great, thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bernard Cahill.
Here.
Rowan McAllister.
Present.
Kristen Rapolo.
Here.
Patty Sheehan. Not sure if Patty's going to be with us. Okay. Good evening. This is an open meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the state emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The orders, which can be found posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of this meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comments. For this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals is convened by telephone conference and video conference via Google Hangout. You may join by telephone by calling 929-260-4634 and entering the following PIN, 959-837907. Ground rules. We're now turning to the first agenda item. Before we do so, please permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure active and accurate meeting minutes. I, Mary Beth Lynch, will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for this particular item or guest speaker associated with this item on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. I will then call upon the members to offer a motion, and for a second, please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute and unmute your phones by pressing *6 or mute your computer when you are not speaking so as not to trigger your camera feed or background noise. For public comments, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comments as follows. The chair will ask each member of the public who wishes to speak to identify themselves by the name and address only. For any responses, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a discussion with each member, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call. Whew, say that 5 times. Okay. Without further ado, in addition to keeping your microphones muted or until called upon, I would remind the public to please keep any questions or comments brief and to the point and ask questions through the chair. First order of business is to sign a bill for Worcester Telegram and Gazette from February 22nd, 2021 for legal notices in the amount of $336. Can I get a motion to approve the bill as read?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mary Beth, aye. Second item of business. Like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the October 30th, 2019 minutes. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve October 30th, 2019 meeting minutes.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa Cosette?
Aye.
Patrick Fullen?
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy?
Aye.
Paul George?
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Next motion, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 27th, 2019 minutes.
Motion to approve January 27th, 2019 meeting minutes?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Patrick Follen,
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. Next up, to approve the minutes of the April 27th, 2020 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve April 27th, 2020 meeting minutes?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Patrick Follen,
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Thank you. Moving on to our first public hearing. And I'm going to recuse myself and hand the meeting over to Lisa Cosette.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
And by the way, Matthew Armenti will be stepping in as the fifth member of the board. And there you go, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. So it's our first 6:30 hearing is 14 Maplewood Road in the Residential A zoning district. The appellants are Robert and Grace DeVerde. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Mhm.
And they are here for a variance to section 7, table 2 to construct an addition at 14 Maplewood Road. So with that, the public hearing for 14 Maplewood Road is a new public hearing. Could the applicant please introduce themselves and explain your application to the board and to the public?
I'm Robert DeVerde. This is my wife, Grace DeVerde. And explain. I'm sorry.
Hi.
Yeah.
This is Estelle.
Yeah, this is Estelle. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build a garage in front of our existing home so that we can use the current garage as living space. So and basically we need to go into the setback about 2.5 feet.
So because of the shape of our lot,
It's the only, yeah.
it's basically impossible to add on any square footage to the house without kind of requesting a variance, just because
Yeah.
it's an odd shape. But we think that this will be aesthetically pleasing, hopefully, and really cause minimal disruption to
Yeah.
our neighbors.
It's the lowest impact on the area and the lot.
Okay, thank you. So this property has some history to it. I think board members, we have some additional documentation in our Google Drive. But before we ask questions, I would like to ask Ms. McAllister, is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you. Yes, I'll just cover a couple of things. First, I believe the applicant just mistakenly checked both variance and special permit. So we do have a letter of withdrawal for a special permit, which you'll need to vote on first. And then second, yes, you referred to the history. The house received a variance around 2014 to construct a dwelling with frontage no less than 41 feet. So for consistency's sake, you'll see the rear yard and side yards are consistent with that prior variance. So the rear yard is considered this 42.8 feet, and the side yard, given the kind of unusual shape of the lot, is considered what was originally around 26 feet. So it's a variance to decrease the side yard setback from approximately 26 feet to 17.5 feet. And the required setback in this zoning district is 20 feet. That's all.
Was there also information about the front yard setback in that original decision to allow for this single dwelling to be built in the first place? I can't recall. I will bring that up though.
Hey, let me check. I don't have that in front of me right now, but give me a moment.
So it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a 2008 decision to allow for the dwelling to be built in the first place. It is an unusual lot, and we granted that variance. That was a long time ago. And let me just look here.
My mistake. I did say 2014. You're
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
2008.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
the same.
Okay,
for
thank
that
you.
correction.
Nope,
We
no
purchased
problem.
the lot
Yeah, we
in
purchased the lot in
2014.
2014.
That explains it. Okay, so
Thank you.
great, wonderful. And so you purchased the house that was already existing?
No,
Or
we
you built it in
we built-
2014?
We built it in 2014.
Okay, according to the, whatever was granted back in 2008, that was done, and now you're asking to add this proposed garage that we see before us. And thank you, Ms. McAllister, for describing the changes to the setbacks. So board members, I will, let me just make sure I'm following the script. I would like to open it up to questions from the board members before we open it up to public comment to any abutters who have joined us this evening. So I'll just go down the line of who I have here. So Mr. Mulcahy, do you have any questions for the appellant?
Yeah, sure. I'll start by saying that it's obvious to me that it is an oddly shaped lot and that the position of the house does make it pretty hard to add on in a way that doesn't require a variance. I guess sorry, it's my cat. The only exception, I guess, would be that sort of northeast corner of the house. There's what appears to be a bulkhead there. I just wonder if you explored adding on there where it looks like you'd be well within the building envelope to add on there, and if there's a reason why that can't work.
Well, for one, there is a bulkhead, and that just where that would be, like, we wouldn't be able to put a garage on that side because this lot is all ledge and it goes up, like you can't tell the grade. It doesn't.
No, yeah. To clarify, so I understand that you're adding a garage and using the existing garage in order to get more living space. My question is, could you add living space in that northeast corner, and then you wouldn't need to do a new garage?
Okay.
The topography of the land, which obviously you can't tell from the plot plan, it's very sloped on that side. So it would be really difficult to put a drive. Well, I see, we one of the ideas we explored was putting the garage back there, which is why I thought driveway. But regardless, it's very sloped. And
It'd be a weird spot to build, in other words.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all ledge, the entire lot.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mulcahy. I'll go down the line now. Mr. Armenti, do you have any questions for our appellant?
I don't have any questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fullen,
No questions.
Mr. George.
So the only relief you're looking for is 2.5 feet?
Yeah, that's all it'd be going over, over the setback.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Just
Great,
one other,
thank-
Madam Chair.
Yes, sure.
And you're at the end of a dead end street, and
Yeah.
that western boundary there is someone else's backyard, but the house is sort of set pretty far away from that, right?
Yeah, it's
Right, and it's
probably
wooded in between.
70 feet or so.
So a long ways. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. Thank you.
So thank you, board members. I don't have any additional comments. I did look at the property. It's hard actually to see because you go down the street and it's kind of off to the back there.
Yeah.
But I did look at the GIS, and you just commented on the neighbor property to the, I guess it is west, and you are pretty far away from that. It will be interesting to see if that abutter is with us this evening. So without further ado, if there's no more questions from board members, we will have a chance to deliberate after closing this public hearing once we hear from public comment. So if there's any other questions, ask me now from board members. Otherwise, I will open it up to the public. And public, get ready to unmute if you have a question. Okay. So this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public present who have a question or a comment? I do remind the public to please keep your questions or comments brief and to the point, and to ask them through me, the vice chair at the moment. So I'll just wait for somebody to join. And we usually wait awkwardly and silent to give people an opportunity to unmute. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone has any question or comment. So I would like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing from a board member.
Move
Motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. George. Okay, if there, okay, now, need to do roll call of the motion to close the public hearing. So, starting at the top, Mr. Mulcahy,
Aye.
Mr. Armenti,
Aye.
Mr. Fullen,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, the hearing is now closed, and we will go on to deliberating. Does anyone have any comment or question regarding this hearing? Anything they'd like to discuss before I entertain a motion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Mulcahy.
I would just say I think this strikes me as a pretty classic situation that calls for a variance. You've got an unusually shaped lot. You've got ledge. You've got topography that's sloping that makes building difficult. You've got an existing structure that's located within the building envelope, more or less, but in such a position where it'd be hard to add on in another place. And all of those conditions appear to be unique to the neighborhood. So I think it checks literally all the boxes for a variance.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mulcahy. I agree completely. Do any other members have a comment? Okay, we actually have two things to do with this hearing. We need to make a motion to approve the special permit withdrawal request without prejudice, as Ms. McAllister stated. The special permit box was erroneously checked off by mistake. So do I have a motion to approve the special permit withdrawal request without prejudice?
Move to approve the withdrawal without prejudice.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So all in favor, I'll go down the roll call. Mr. Mulcahy,
Aye.
Mr. Armenti,
Aye.
Mr. Fullen,
Aye.
Mr. George,
Aye.
and I will also say aye. So the motion to approve the special permit withdrawal request has been granted.
Thank you.
Now, you're welcome. We have one remaining question before us, and that is whether or not to approve the variance. I don't believe there was any more deliberation. So do I have a motion to approve a variance to construct an addition to a single-family dwelling at 14 Maplewood Road?
Move to approve as read.
Approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So all in favor, we'll go down the roll call again. Mr. Mulcahy,
Aye.
Mr. Armenti,
Aye.
Mr. Fullen,
Aye.
Mr. George,
Aye.
and Ms. Cassette says aye as well. So the motion to approve the variance to construct an addition to a single-family dwelling at 14 Maplewood Road has been unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Bye.
it. Bye.
Thank you, Lisa. Next up, we have the hearing, hear the appeal for 13 Grove Ridge Path. It's a multifamily one by Michael Heaton Construction, 16 Walcott Street, Hopkinton, Mass. This is for a special permit to expand a deck. This hearing for 13 Grove Ridge Path is a new public hearing. Could the appellant please introduce themselves and explain their application to the board and to the public?
Hi, it's Michael Heaton for 13 Grove Ridge, sorry. We're just looking to extend the existing deck a little further on the property. The deck they have now kind of leaves a little bit of grass around that's kind of not utilized, so they're looking to make the deck bigger so they have more function of their yard essentially.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. McAllister, anything else to add?
I would just thank the applicant as well. Staff had asked that the plans show both the setback from the house and the setbacks from the existing and proposed deck. So the plans did get a little complex. If it may be helpful, I can just quickly highlight that the existing deck is 7 feet from the northerly side yard setback, and the proposed deck would be 0.9 feet. And then adversely on the southerly side, the existing deck is 11.2 feet from the southerly side yard lot line, and it would be, the proposed deck is 3 feet. Now, again, I would just like to highlight, of course, the actual setbacks of the house are, for the side yard setbacks, that is, are around 5 feet. So that change is not quite as dramatic overall, but hopefully that gives a little bit, the board, an idea of how the deck is changing. Happy to answer any more questions too about it, if needed.
Thank you, Rowan. Let's work through the board, see if there's any questions or comments. Start with Lisa.
I just have some comments. These lots near the lake are really, really tight, and it's just a given with those lots. And I appreciate all that everyone near the lake is trying to do to enhance the living space and make their property, more livable. So I understand what this appellant is faced here with. I do have a comment though. It does seem overly wide to me. So I'm going to put that out there, that the proximity to the other properties going down to 0.9 feet and 0.3 feet on the other side, that seems too much to me. And when I look at this, I'm wondering if it was considered to just go, 5 feet or 4.5 feet from each of the other properties. And I'd like to hear about why that's not possible.
Do I comment now?
Sure.
So if you look at the, excuse me, the boathouse side, it's actually 4 feet that's giving us those areas of the 6.2 on the right side and the 4 feet on the left side. Those decks are actually going to almost be at grade level. So you would be walking, there's kind of like a landscape set of stairs on kind of both sides of that property that aren't utilized very well. So we're essentially trying to create, when you walk down that area, you would walk onto the deck.
Thank you. That's a perfect explanation. So the grade is such that you're going to be led down to a platform versus
Correct.
no platform and just continue,
And if I could
down the
comment
grade.
one more thing, the other good part about if we get the special permit for this is the deck's gonna fill that little bit of space that's closer to the wall, and will actually provide a railing, which they don't have on the lake wall right now.
And are we able to see this in the deck plan?
The railing?
I'm trying to see. There's no grading or anything. Okay, so I was hoping the deck plan that we had submitted had a little bit more about that, but you're talking to it. It's okay.
Yeah, no, we do have the railing on there, and there is no, we didn't end up getting a topical map done up.
Okay, Madam Chair, that's it for me at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's Peter Mulcahy, questions, comments?
Yeah, I would just say I had the exact same reaction as Ms. Cassette, and I think I'm also very satisfied by the response that it's a deck, but it's even with grade at that point. So it's not like there's a structure there, so to speak. I mean, there is, but not like a thing there that's 0.9 feet from the line. It's basically still the ground,
Right.
just man-made ground.
Right.
Okay, no, that's helpful. Very helpful. Thank you.
They're basically just trying to create a backyard with a deck. I mean, the backyard is going to become the deck. There won't be much lawn left. because there's just no way to utilize any of it.
Thank you. Patrick, questions, comments?
No, that was a good explanation for me.
Thank you. Paul, George, questions, comments?
I just have a question. Do they have to go for conservation for this?
We did, and we were approved.
That's all I have.
Great, thank you. I am comfortable at this point, so we're gonna move it to the, can I get a motion to, I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. So next up, we're gonna open up the meeting to any abutters or members of the public that would like to be heard on this matter. I'm gonna give it a minute. We do have a lot of people on this call, so if there's any neighbor or person out there that would like to talk to us, we're going to give you just a couple seconds to unmute yourself, *6. Let us know you're out there, and we'd be happy to listen to you. All right, one more call. If you're here to be heard on this matter, let us know you're there. If we don't hear anyone, I would like to get a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Motion to close?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy,
Aye.
Patrick Follen,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. If there are any objections or all are part of the application, nope, we're good with that. So can I get a motion, please, to approve a special permit to demolish an existing deck and construct a new deck at 13 Grove Ridge Path?
Motion to approve as stated?
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Patrick Follen,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Moving on to our next agenda item, to hear the appeal of 116 North Street in the Residence A District. Aaron Bloom and Michelle Dubosky Bloom. Sorry, I probably messed that last name up. They're looking for a special permit to section 4B to construct additions to a non-conforming single-family dwelling. The public hearing for 116 North Street is a new public hearing. Can the applicant please introduce themselves and explain their application to the board?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Richard Ricker, and I'm an attorney with law offices at 11 Maple Avenue. As you know, for the record, I am calling you on my phone because the sound portion of my computer system apparently isn't working correctly. So can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I can see everything on the computer, but I can't get sound. In any event, Aaron and Michelle Bloom are with us tonight. I can see them down in the lower portion of the screen. They also have a young family, as you can see. This is a request born out of a desire to add on to the house that is a prior non-conforming structure because of a setback issue. And this is a request for them to rather dramatically and nicely change this house from a ranch to the house that you see in the elevations that have been submitted with this application. Presently, the house has a setback of 19.1 feet. And this garage, this single-story garage with an attic would basically push that setback to approximately 6.1 feet. Other than that, everything else complies. This is a request for a special permit, as you know, because of the non-conforming nature already existing with regard to the setback. I would suggest to you respectfully that there are a couple things to bear in mind here. Number one, I draw your attention back to Town Council's letter dated February 21, 2017, wherein he noted, among other things on the second page of his letter, that the following activities as the court cited in the Bransford court in Goldsmith versus McNear and Bransford, the Supreme Judicial Court cited the following activities as not increasing the non-conforming nature of a structure. Among those matters that were listed, and the additions listed, was an addition of a one-story garage for no more than 2 motor vehicles. And that's what you have here on that side. In addition, I would note to you that this is right on point with the Belalta case, which I have noted to you before. The Belalta case requires your board basically to make 2 decisions in one. One, to make sure that the special permit request that we're requesting is not a nuisance by virtue of noise, hazardous materials, or anything like that. Noise, basic nuisance values, which obviously I'm suggesting to you that this is a single family use. It's going to remain a single family use. These people are just simply looking to expand the house so that they can stay in the neighborhood that they are in. This is in keeping with other changes that have occurred in that neighborhood. There are some very large houses in that neighborhood, and this is in keeping with what has happened growing down that section of North Street. Also in Belalta, though, the board, once it reaches the determination that we are not establishing any new nonconformities, which we are not, that you need to make the determination that the request is not substantially, quote unquote, out of Belalta, substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I would suggest to you respectfully that that is the case here. This request is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and therefore it falls within the parameters of the Belalta case. Now, I have submitted as well, and I believe you have in your packets, a letter from the most immediate abutter, George Harpin, who states that he is the neighbor direct abutter, that he has reviewed their plans to expand their home as filed with you, and he supports their plans. And I ask you to pay attention to that as part of the overall hearing here. Again, I think the flavor of this is that it is clearly not causing any new nonconformities, and it is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I understand from the Blooms that they have spoken with their other neighbors on both sides and across the street on North Street, and they're not aware of any objections. In fact, just about everybody said that they were fine with it. With that, if you have, and obviously in terms of nuisance value or anything else, again, this is a single family. It's in harmony with and in keeping with the terms of the bylaw, and therefore, I would suggest it's clearly not a nuisance. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Attorney Ricker. Ms. McAllister, anything further to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, Attorney Ricker summed it up well. I will just clarify as well for the board or confirm that the board may be familiar that in the past, a variance was required to increase more than 50% a single family dwelling. Our town council has determined that due to recent court decisions, this does not apply to single or 2 family dwellings. So it is simply a special permit. And we will be amending our zoning bylaw in May to reflect that change in interpretation. So.
And Madam Chair, that was a part of the discussions that we had with the building department and with zoning and town planner prior to getting to this point. And I did note to them the particular treatment of single and duplexes, single family and duplexes under Chapter 40A, Section 6, as she noted. So that's why I didn't say anything about it, because it's really not in front of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's work through the board, see if there's any questions or comments. Let's start with Lisa Cosette, please.
Thank you once again for submitting so much information. It makes this so much easier. And thank you for summarizing, Mr. Ricker, the arguments. I agree with everything you've proposed. I'm really happy to hear that we're going to make this zoning change as well. So glad to hear that. And I have no further questions or comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Peter, any questions, comments?
Just a comment. I'd echo what Ms. Cossette said and what Attorney Ricker said with regard to the Bella Alta case. It does very explicitly say that the addition of a two-car garage or a dormer or anything like that does not intensify nonconformity. And I think where that is the only place where we're significantly expanding here, I think it falls within the reach of the Bella Alta case.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fullen.
I am good.
Thank you. Mr. George.
Not at this time.
No questions. Okay, great. I have no further questions. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up to members of the public who would like to be heard on this matter. And I'm going to remind the public to please keep their questions and comments brief and to the point. And if you have something to say, we would love to hear from you. *6 will unmute yourself. I'm going to give it a couple seconds to see who's out there that would like to be heard. Okay. I think we've given sufficient time. Might I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Motion to close.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch? Aye. So moved. Any objections? So I need a motion to approve a special permit to construct additions on a single-family dwelling at 116 North Street.
Motion to approve as stated.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch? Aye. So moved. Thank you very much for your time and your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you
guys.
very much. Thank you to the members of the board, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry about the audio.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, to hear the appeal of 10 Main Boulevard in the Residence B1 District, Stone Creek Development Corporation, Daniel Benoit, 552 Main Street, Unit 6 in Shrewsbury. This is to seek a special permit to Section 4B to construct an addition. The public hearing for 10 Main Street is a new public hearing. Could the applicant please introduce themselves and explain to the board what you're seeking to do?
Hi, I'm Daniel Benoit, the contractor, and I am doing a simple addition for an elderly family. She's trying to get a little bit more space into her bathroom to give it to her. She can have a easy access shower and a standalone tub. The property is pre-existing non-conforming. It's 28.2 feet from the front setback, and the required is 30 feet. And nothing is happening in the front, and all the setbacks will be met and not changed for the rear, so it won't impact any of the setbacks, and nothing is going to be changed in the front, so the setback is going to stay at 28.2. The current bathroom is only 5.5 foot by 7 foot, and it's a little too small. There's no room inside the house because all the rooms are being used for bedrooms and the kitchen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Benoit. Can I get Ms. McAllister? Any further comments?
No, Mr. Benoit said it well. I have nothing to add.
Okay, let's work through the board, see if anyone has questions or comments. I'd like to start with Lisa Cosette.
I have no questions. this is just a formality. It's a non-conforming structure, so the appellant just has to come before us, I guess, so that we can agree that the addition doesn't encroach on any of the setbacks, and this clearly doesn't. So I have no question or comment.
Thank you. Peter?
Same here. All set. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Patrick?
No questions.
Thank you. Paul George?
No questions.
Okay. And I have no questions except to say I hope the bathroom looks nice when you're done. So, being that this is a public hearing, are there any members of the public who wish to be heard on this matter? I'm going to give it a few minutes. Not minutes, seconds actually. See if anybody's out there that would like to chat with us. Nobody's chatting with us tonight. We're going to get music to count this down. I think that's going to be my next request from Rowan.
I'll do Jeopardy again.
Exactly. We have gotten caught though where people had a hard time getting off of mute. So I'm going to remind you, *6 is an unmute button. If you're out there and you'd like to talk or comment, we would welcome you. Okay. Oh, somebody has raised their hand. It appears that we have
Hi,
somebody out there.
Since nobody's chatting, I figured I'd just chime in and say hello. But I totally think that this is a worthwhile, necessary thing, and I hope it goes forward.
Thank you, Ms. Ladd. Can you please just state your name and address for the records, please?
Sure, I'm Marla Ladawi, 30 Washington Street. I'm a neighbor.
Thank you very much. Anyone else out there? I love the hand raising. So if you want to raise your hand, that way I can, I know you're out there. Okay. I do not think we have anyone else out there, but I'm going to give it a second. And could we entertain a motion to close the hearing, please?
Motion to close.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy,
Aye.
Patrick Fullen,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye, so moved.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Is
good
any, so can I get a motion to approve the special permit to construct an addition on a single-family dwelling at 10 Main Boulevard?
Motion to approve as stated.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy,
Aye.
Patrick Fullen,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye, so moved. Thank you very much.
Have a
Moving
good
on to
evening.
the-
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next hearing, to hear the appeal of 10 Old Cart Road in a Residence B1 district. James O'Brien from Central Mass Handyman Services, Inc., 33 Clearwater Avenue in Worcester, Mass. They're applying for a variance to Section 7, Table 2, to construct a screen porch in the same location as an existing deck. The public hearing for 10 Old Cart Road is a new public hearing. Could the applicant please introduce themselves and explain their application to the board?
Hi, I'm Jim O'Brien, and I'm the contractor. We are looking at an existing non-conforming deck, 12 by 12, 31 feet setback, that we're looking to add a screen house onto. We are not changing any dimensions to change any setbacks, and the existing deck is non-documented, though it was built with the house in 2000. There are no documents to substantiate the fact that it was done at the time. There was no permit or inspection, however, it was built with the house. The existing owners had the house built. Therefore, we need a variance because the deck being undocumented, we can't say we can put a screen house on something that doesn't exist. So therefore, we're requesting a variance for the deck. The existing deck will remain. It will be brought up to code with different pier footings and posts as required. We've already spoken with Patty, gone through what we need to do to upgrade it, and therefore understand what we have to do. So we're looking to put a screen house on that will in fact be for health purposes. They have a lot of water around them, and the fear of the triple E mosquitoes is one thing, but the owner, Michael Baldino, is also allergic to bees, and they tend to draw an awful lot of bees. So they're just trying to protect themselves from that. Their lot is such that 31 feet in the back is such that they would never have been conforming to the 40-foot setback. And so therefore we're asking for the variance to allow the grandfathered in deck already to be permitted so that we can then add the screen house on top of it.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Ms. McAllister, any further comments?
Just to add that similar to another application we had, this the board will need to approve the withdrawal of a special permit request. We had the applicant check both at the time of application before our zoning enforcement officer, Patty Sheehan, made a determination as to whether this would be a variance or special permit. So the board will need to vote on that, as well as a waiver request, as this is not a certified plot plan. But otherwise, the applicant said it well. This is a variance because both the new function as a screen porch and the construction being done on the deck itself is has been determined, to create a new nonconformity. So again, this is just a variance to build an enclosed screen porch with 31 feet rear yard setback. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McAllister. And let's open this up to the board, see if anyone has questions or comments. I'd like to start with Lisa, please.
I have no questions. I understand the problem and I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter? Peter Mulcahy.
We can't hear you.
Peter went blank on us.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me now? Am
Yes.
I back? Sorry, it cut out for a second. Yeah, I guess my reaction is it seems like kind of an odd situation. I'm understanding correctly. I think that the deck is original to the house, but didn't appear on the plans. And so even though it's always been there, it's a new nonconformity because there's no record of it. I mean,
That's exactly.
It kind of doesn't fit the typical definition of what's required for a variance, but I think it's also kind of an unusual situation. I think it's more like a special permit. And, you know, Attorney Ricker just mentioned that Bell Alta case. Another thing that the Bell Alta case specifically mentions is enclosing a deck to make it a sun porch. So, you know, I think really it fits in with the purposes of the bylaw. It doesn't sound like these owners are responsible for the fact that it was not recorded when it was first built. So I don't really have a problem with a variance in this circumstance. I realize that's not a question and was just a comment, but please feel free to respond anyway.
Mr. O'Brien, would you like to respond to that, or are you okay
No,
with us continuing?
I think it's right on. I think that that's exactly what it is. We've got something that's not documented for one reason or another. We're not challenging that. We're just saying that the owners had the house built. It was part of their package. And so therefore, for whatever reason, it was set as 31 feet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. How about Patrick Fullen? Any comments, questions?
I have no comments or questions at this time.
Great. Thank you. Mr. George, any comments or questions?
I'm all set. Next.
Thank you very much. I would simply state that the fact that we've talked about Bell Alta twice in one meeting is pretty amazing. For all you legal scholars out there, you're clapping your hands. I find it amazing that more of these don't come in front of us. It's just amazing how complicated all of this is. And so I think this falls into a classic situation, and I have no problem with it at all. This is a public hearing, and so we're going to see if there's any members of the public who wish to be heard making comments or questions, and I would remind any public comments to keep them brief and to the point. And I'm going to give a few fun little moments to see if anybody's out there. If you want to use your raise your hand button, that seemed to work well the last time. And we could use that again this time. *6 to unmute yourself if you are out there. Okay. All right, going once, going twice. Nobody's out there. I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Motion to close?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor, Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy, Patrick Pullen,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. If there are any, okay, need to get a, so I need a motion to approve the special permit withdrawal request without prejudice.
Motion to approve?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor? Lisa?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Next up, I need a motion to approve the waiver request to not provide a certified plot plan.
Motion to approve?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor? Lisa Cosette?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. Need a motion to approve a variance to construct a screened-in porch on a single-family dwelling at 10 Old Cart Road.
Motion to approve as stated?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Lisa, thank you. Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Congratulations and have fun in your screened-in porch.
Thank you to the members of the board. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. We are now going to hear the appeal of 11 Ivy Path in the Rural B District. Peter Messier of PRM Construction, P.O. Box 620, Charlton, Mass. They're applying for a variance to Section 4, Table 2 to construct a second floor addition. This is a public hearing for 11 Ivy Path, and it is a new public hearing. Could the applicant please introduce themselves and explain the application to the board?
Good evening. I'm Peter Messier, the contractor. We are looking to construct a second-story addition to the existing garage, the attached garage at 11 Ivy Path. It is my knowledge that there was a variance for this garage in 1986 when it was built. The front corner of the garage encroaches into the setbacks about 3.5 feet. And we are not looking to build beyond the building envelope. We are going to cantilever the front of the addition to match the front of the house just for aesthetics. And because it's going to work better with the way the house is already built. And the way the lot is shaped and the position of the home, there's really no other area that we could add square footage onto the home because it would encroach even further into the setbacks. So utilizing the building of a second story on the garage doesn't encroach. It encroaches the least amount into existing setbacks. So this is a pre-existing non-conforming structure that we're adding to.
Thank you, Mr. Messier. Can I get Ms. McAllister to make any additions?
Yes, I'll just sum it up. Mr. Messier did a good job. I'll just say, echo the 1986 decision that allowed the construction of a garage no less than 25 feet from the northerly side yard lot line. Due to the second story addition on that garage, this applicant has to return to the board. And then the 1 foot cantilever that was mentioned does bump out into the side yard setback, but because this setback is greater than 25 feet, this is simply a modification of that 1986 variance. I suppose if it had bumped out further, it would have been further than 25 feet. It would have been a whole new variance. Again, that is not the case. So it is just a variance modification.
Thank you, Rowan. Let's get the board to weigh in with questions or comments. Let's start with Lisa, please.
I think I just want to confirm, at first I thought this was to add a garage that hadn't been added, but the garage is there and this is to put a second story addition over the garage.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, okay, I have no questions or comments, thanks.
Thank you. Peter.
Yes.
Yeah, I would just say for the record, I guess, that one of the things that is a factor in whether or not to grant a variance is the position of existing structures. And I think this is kind of an obvious example of that, you know, the hardship here would be you're going to have to knock down the existing garage and move it back a couple feet so that you can build a second story on it. That doesn't make any sense. So in that sense, I think it clearly meets the requirements for variance.
Great, thank you. Patrick.
No, I think it'll look great. That looks
Great.
good.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mr. George.
No questions.
Thank you. I have no questions as well. This is a public hearing, so we are going to play the Jeopardy game again and ask if there's any members of the public who wish to be heard or comment on this. We're going to give it a few minutes to see if there's anybody out there. And if you want to
Madam Chair, someone has raised their hand, I believe.
Wonderful. Why do I not see a raised hand?
I don't know.
Are you?
There we go, Mr. Lazan.
Thank you. Brian and Maria Lozon, 24 Cypress Ave. We're abutters to the rear of this property, and we just want to offer our support for the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Lazan. I appreciate you attending the meeting and raising your hand. If there's anyone else out there that would like to be heard, please do so. I did not see Mr. Lazan's hand raised, so if you have your hand raised, please, maybe somebody else sees it. Anybody else out there that would like to be heard on this matter? Okay, I think we may have given this enough time, so I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Motion to close.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, Lisa Cosette.
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy.
Aye.
Patrick Fullen.
Aye.
Paul George.
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. So I need a motion to approve a variance modification to construct a cantilevered second story on an attached garage on a single family dwelling at 11 Ivy Path.
Motion to approve as stated.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, Lisa Cosette.
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy.
Aye.
Patrick Fullen.
Aye.
Paul George.
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Congratulations and enjoy your addition.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Okay, next agenda item. It's actually our last agenda item before we take on new business. To hear the appeal of 910 Boston Turnpike in the Limited Industrial District, Bay State Physical Therapy of Randolph Inc., 703 Granite Street, Suite 300 in Braintree, Mass. They're applying for a variance to Section 7 to operate a physical therapy office. This is a public hearing and it is a new public hearing. Could the applicant please introduce themselves and explain to the board what they intend to do?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the applicant, I'm Mark Donahue from Fletcher Tilton. With me this evening to present this application for variance is Andrew Germanow of Bay State Physical Therapy and Ken Hecht of Hecht Shrewsbury, who was the owner of the building also. By way of background, Mr. Hecht actually purchased this property in 2013. He has since that time spent a fair amount of money to improve the property and its appearance. With the help of this board, he was granted a variance to put the sign up that has a digital display that you see to increase the visibility of the property. And he's established as a successful business with a mix of tenants that you can see there. The clear ones being the current tenants of a daycare facility, a Fastenal retail facility for tools and the like, and Jenny Boston, which has an office and distribution portion of the building. In the past, there have been other tenants in this building who have utilized a use variance. The memorandum of Ms. McAllister refers to the 2016 use variance for a dance studio. That was actually a revival of a use variance granted originally for a dance studio in 2010 by this board. The applicant, Bay State Physical Therapy, is fairly new to the community. They purchased in December of 2020 the business of All Access Physical Therapy, which was occurring down the driveway next to this property, also in the limited industrial district, and doing that as part of what had been a gym or fitness facility, which closed due to COVID in some fashion. All Access had been operating that physical therapy back since 2009 in that location to at least some degree. To give you a little bit more background of Bay State Physical Therapy, with your permission, before I review the criteria for variance, Madam Chair, I'd ask Mr. Geminow to just tell you a little bit about himself and his business and what brought him to Shrewsbury.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Geminow.
Hi, thank you for the time tonight. My name is Andrew Jamino. I'm a physical therapist with Bay State Physical Therapy. In the winter, we had the opportunity to partner with All Access Physical Therapy, and we're very excited to join the Shrewsbury community with a group that has longstanding roots in Shrewsbury with treatment and the organization of All Access since 2002. And as Mark previously stated, being in the location since 2009. One of our goals in looking to change locations due to our current space, also including a gym facility, was to minimize the impact to our patients in changing locations. And when we were able to work with Ken to determine this location, we were extremely excited that it would not cause too much confusion, just moving a short way down the driveway to serve our patients. So then that way they will not have to worry about making a different turn or finding a different route to us too significantly. With our plans, we see about 5 patients on the hour. So we don't anticipate a significant amount of parking requirements. And the shared driveway that we currently use will still be the driveway that people will access off of the Boston Turnpike. Really, our goal in this situation is to minimize our inconvenience to our patients with the move. And we think that this location will achieve that.
Thank you, Mr. Geminow. Is there someone else? Attorney Donahue, somebody else you wanted to speak?
No, if I might just take a moment, Madam Chair, to review the criteria for a variance and how this application meets it, which is in our memorandum, and I will try to be brief. We believe that this is a unique site. The site is bounded on both sides by the commercial business zoning district, which dominates the frontage on Route 9 along the strip on both sides. It's a little bit unique being in the limited industrial zoning. And in the past, we've actually looked at potential rezoning, but because of the private drive, really can't do that without some unintended consequences due to changing the access. It's also somewhat unique as to the manner in which the bylaw establishes uses that are either permitted in the adjoining commercial business district or could fit here, which are very similar to physical therapy. By way of example, in the limited industrial district, an outpatient medical clinic or ambulatory surgery center are available by special permit, yet this type of medical office or doctor's office, as it's referred to, clustered, is not permitted. However, in the limited industrial district, professional and general offices are. So it's a little bit of a unique circumstance there. The hardship to the applicant is particularly, as Mr. Jamino indicated, a good reason that he came to Shrewsbury was to continue to service clients who are used to coming to this area to go past this building to all access presently. That facility is not available because it was a much larger facility, and the landlord there is looking to use that space that is more than Bay State needs in any kind of fashion. So it's important that they be able to maintain that. It's also the hardship that would fall to Mr. Hecht as the owner of the property, since the property is particularly situated for uses of this nature where businesses can take advantage of the proximity and the visibility, while the more limited industrial uses tend to be more innocuous and fit better in the back. And then finally, we believe relief can be granted without detriment to the public good and also in harmony with the bylaw. The 2010 variance, in fact, specifically found that both the hardship existed and these type of non-industrial uses could work well for this particular building in this location in some fashion. It would not, to quote from the 2010 decision of this board, conflict with the spirit of the bylaw or create any harmful condition. So with that, we would respectfully request the board to grant a variance to permit physical therapy business to operate at 910 Boston Turnpike. And obviously myself, Mr. Geminow, and Mr. Heck are glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Attorney Donahue. Ms. McAllister, any further comments?
I have nothing to add. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Let's work through the board, see if we've got comments or questions. Ms. Cosette?
I have no questions. I agree with everything that was stated in the memorandum submitted by Mr. Donahue. So I thank you again for a very complete application, giving us all the information that we need.
Thank you.
So I have nothing more to add.
Thank you. Mr. Mulcahy?
Similar, I agree with Attorney Donahue's analysis. I think, it's an island of limited industrial in an area that's otherwise commercial. The fact it's odd to me that a medical office or an ambulatory care center or a professional office could open with a special permit, but here you need a variance, and particularly in light of the 2010 decision, I think this is a sort of a no-brainer.
Thank you. Patrick Fullen, questions, comments?
I just want, is the all access physical therapy, is that all closed now?
Attorney
Yeah.
Donahue?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Gemino? Did you say yes, it's closed?
Yes.
Okay,
All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
thank you. Mr. George?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The only comment I would make is I was waiting for you to say Bel Alta in your discussion. with Attorney Donahue.
I was trying to figure out a way to
There's
get
no-
it in there.
No, you were trying to
So
work
that'd
that
be a
in.
winning hand.
Well, I think we're okay for tonight for our Bel Altas. So, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
You want to
Wait a
take public
minute.
comment first?
I'm sorry, I have to do public comments. I'm so sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. So excited about the Bel Altas discussion. So we need public comments. Is there anyone out there that would like to be heard on this matter? I would request that you perhaps raise your hand, *6 yourself, and let us know that you're out there. Love to hear your comments. Going once, going twice. Don't think we have any public comments, so I need a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Motion to close?
Can I get a second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor, Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Patrick Mulcahy. Did I say Patrick Mulcahy? I'm so.
Oh my
sorry.
gosh, you must know a Patrick Mulcahy.
It's the,
No,
it's the
it's
Irish
Peter
last name
Patrick
that's throwing you. Well, aye, anyway.
Patrick Fullen.
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Paul. Thank you very much. Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Thank you very much. Need to get a motion to approve a variance to operate a physical therapy business at 910 Boston Turnpike.
Motion to approve as stated?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor, Ms. Cosette,
Aye.
Mr. Mulcahy,
Aye.
Mr. Fullen,
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Ms. Lynch, aye, so moved. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for your consideration.
Very welcome. Have a good evening. Okay. Moving on to new business. Next up, to discuss and vote on the determination for proposed changes at the Point at Hills Farm comprehensive permit. I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Cahill and ask him to explain the procedure and purpose of this public hearing before the appellant introduces the details of the proposed change to the 40B project.
Madam Chairperson, I have to recuse myself from this hearing or this discussion.
Thank you, Paul. So, Mr. Cahill, where does that put us?
Fine. We just need a majority for tonight, so a 3 out of 4 to make a determination one way or another. So yeah, I'm comfortable. I didn't realize that there was a conflict. But I think we're okay to proceed, provided the appellant is okay to proceed. Otherwise, within the next 15 days, we have to hold another meeting, or the 20 days expires, and by default, the change is granted.
And point of order, just for the appellant's purposes, that means 1 no vote is sinks it, right? And then otherwise, they would have 2 no votes if would require 2 no votes, right? Otherwise.
Yeah, it depends which way you're going, which one gets sunk. So whichever one's a vote, you need 3 out of 4,
right?
A majority. So
we need the super majority.
So I don't know if Wayne's on or Rod, just for the record, if you're okay with proceeding.
I did see a hand raised by Mr. Zaretti, I believe. If he had a comment, I would welcome him.
Bernie, Madam Chair, do you folks hear me? This is Wayne Bellick, Land Design Collaborative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wayne Bellick, Land Design Collaborative. I'm joined tonight by Fran Zaretti of Smart Growth Design, LLC. Fran is the applicant, and Rod St. Pierre is the property owner for number 526 Hartford Turnpike. Rod is joining us as well. So I will, I'll defer to Fran as to whether or not, Fran, you want to hold for a couple of weeks on this, or have present this to the board, have the discussion so that they can vote as to whether or not this is a substantial change or insubstantial. Fran, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay, what was the question again?
I think he's questioning whether you'd like to proceed forward with a board of 4 voting members, or would you like to hold off until our next meeting where we would get a full board with an alternate member?
I think we can proceed.
All right. Great. Thank you, Fran. Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'm just going to give a brief overview to the board. I know you've received one in writing for me, but also for the public watching at home or might be watching at home tonight. So I think a lot of people in town are familiar, or if you're new to town, are not familiar with a project called the Point at Hills Farm, which was a 40B or comprehensive permit project that was approved back in, I believe it was late 2015, and was modified over the course of the year 2016. So as it happened, it was new for me too, as I joined the town staff in 2016. So I wasn't actually in on the original. So I've been doing some catch up myself on these proposed changes. So what you have before you tonight is precisely that. You have a proposed change to the comprehensive permit. As mentioned, was approved in 2016, and an extension was granted, I believe, and Wayne can correct me if I'm wrong, 2019, for, I believe it was a couple of years. In the state rules and regulations, or I say just the state regulations, called 760 CMR 56, the state requires that if after a comprehensive permit is granted by the board, and an applicant desires to change the details of its project as approved by said board, that applicant shall promptly notify the board in writing describing such a change. You received that notification in writing last Friday. We received it Thursday afternoon. You received it Friday morning or Friday afternoon, what have you. And then the state regulations go on to say that within 20 days, the board shall determine and notify the applicant whether it deems the change substantial or insubstantial. The regulations and our Shrewsbury, of course, has its own comprehensive permit regulations, rules and regulations for how to go about the business. It pretty much echoes exactly the state regs. So with that said, tonight is to determine, the board needs to determine with that writing that they have, that notification, which is the only thing that's described by the state as being required to be submitted. And we can have a lengthy discussion about how inadequate these rules and regulations are by the state. But we're not going to have that discussion tonight. We can have it offline sometime. The definition, so understanding substantial and insubstantial, right? So if the board tonight decides, based on that letter that was submitted, that the proposed changes are insubstantial, then the comprehensive change shall be deemed to be immediately modified to incorporate the change. So in other words, the change will be immediately accepted. If the change is determined to be substantial, the board shall hold a public hearing within 30 days of its determination and issue a decision within 40 days of the termination of that hearing. So once the hearing's closed. If that were to happen, only the changes in the project or aspects of the project that are being proposed to change shall be at issue during the such hearing. So in other words, if they were to come back, were you to find a substantial finding of fact, then we wouldn't be relitigating the entire 40B, right, aspect of the project. It's not the use in question. It would just be modification of the decision, of the site plans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to be challenging the validity of the 40B itself. And I should also note to the board that were a finding of substantiality to be found, the applicant does have the right to appeal to the Housing Appeals Committee at DHCD. And they can do so even concurrently with moving ahead with the board's requirement for a public hearing. So they can do them in tandem if they wish. So I just wanted to leave that all out there and explain to you how the process works and what's being asked of you tonight. This is not a public hearing. This is simply a public meeting. It is a courtesy that the chair invited the appellant and developer to be present this evening. And it is at the chair's discretion whether or not you want to hear from the general public or not. You do not have to. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to the chair and let her go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Cahill. So let's turn it over to, I assume, Attorney St. Pierre, but I'm going to make no assumptions. I'm going to
I'm going to turn it over to Wayne Bellick, our engineer. He has all the information you need. And again, I'm okay with going forward with the four-member board. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Wayne will take care of the presentation.
Wayne, would you like to give us any more information so we can decide on the substantial and substantial effect of this?
Most certainly, Madam Chair. Again, thank you for having us tonight. We know it was fairly short notice. Reached out to you last week. Bernie did a great job in coordinating this as well. Thank you, Bernie, for the brief summary on the 760 CMR regulations. I thought that was very good. What I'd like to do, Madam Chair, if it's okay, just kind of give you guys, I know that not everybody currently on the board was with us when we had gone through this in 2015 and 2016. So as Bernie had alluded to in his discussion, there were the original permit was issued in November 2016. There was an amendment in August of 2019, deeming it an insubstantial change. If the board recalls, that was for an option of taking the sewer to Worcester rather than to Westboro as an option. And then in November of 2019, there was a permit extension, as Bernie had mentioned earlier as well. So again, we are seeking a modification, but first, again, the board's determination as to whether or not this is a significant or insignificant change. Again, as Bernie had indicated in 760 CMR, more specifically in the letter that I prepared and issued to the board last week, 760 CMR 5607 4D1 which references the substantial changes in a project. The reduction in the unit density generally will be a substantial change. We do not believe that changes described to the offsite infrastructure constitute a substantial change. So with that, this is all coming about with the recent sale of number 440 Hartford Turnpike. And when all is said and done, we're looking at a project which would only be 526 Hartford Turnpike and would only constitute 92 units. The board may recall, I know that Bernie has seen the plans and the documents enough, even though he wasn't there in the early stages, got up to speed quite a bit with the project. And the original project was 248 units. We're reducing that to 92 units. So with that reduction, that's about 2/3 of the project size is going away. As a result of that, we're going to have a significant reduction in the impacts to the proposed infrastructure, or the existing infrastructure in town, being the water and the sewer. As part of the original permit, it was required that we make improvements to those systems as a result of the impacts with the number of homes and the flows to and the demands on the water system. So again, with phase two, it's only 92 units. Those plans have not changed. There are no changes to the plan. So essentially, as we see it, we don't feel it requires a plan change because the plans haven't changed. The only thing that we have done on the plans, which were issued for construction and as are part of the stormwater pollution prevention plan, is any reference to the plans to phase one, number 440 Hartford Turnpike, have been crossed off. So everything to the construction drawings is specific to number 526, formerly known as phase two. Any questions, Madam Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Bellick. Let's open this up to board members to see what comments and questions we might have. Yes, Bernie, please.
Madam Chair, I failed to mention that Andy Truman is with us this evening, who is the town engineer as well. So for any questions anyone might have for DPW issues engineering, he is here as well to help answer questions.
Thank you.
So I'll let you go back to asking the board.
Great, thank you. Lisa, questions, comments?
Yes, I've been dying.
No, not you.
Yes. Hi,
like the old days.
everybody. How are you all?
Hi,
So
Lisa.
hi. So I believe I'm the only board member who served on this special permit in the past and approved it in its current state, or its state at the time. So I do have to tell you how I'm feeling about this and what I'm thinking. I did receive the notice of this at 4:36 p.m. on Friday, and I understand that we have 20 days to determine whether this is a substantial or insubstantial change. And I have only had a couple hours. So I'm going to put that out there. When I read it, my feeling is it's substantial, and I'll explain why, and you can convince me otherwise. So it looks like phase two of the comprehensive permit is going to go forward, and that's going to be developed. Phase one, the much larger part of the comprehensive permit, is either delayed or may not ever happen, who knows, but we're going forth with phase two. The part that I feel that, less units, that's insubstantial, that's a great thing, wonderful. But once phase one is completed, we're back to the original number of units, and we don't know yet when that will be. My main issue is with the sewer capacity and water hydraulics evaluation at the time. A lot was done in that evaluation. We had consultants, we had town engineering look at that. And if I recall, again, I've only had a couple hours to go back and look at that. If I recall, we all reviewed that and understood that a lot of the sewer improvements that the appellant was offering to make, actually, based on this development, had to do with phase 1 and then the addition of phase 2 and what the impact would be on that. So my hesitancy to say that this is insubstantial is around that report, and I would either want town engineering to look at that again and make sure that we don't require any of the improvements the appellant had originally agreed to for phase 2, or I'd at least like to have the time to really go back and look at those reports and try to make a determination whether it's substantial or insubstantial. So right now I'm feeling it's substantial enough that I would appreciate a public hearing in 30 days to just hear more explanation and a chance for our town departments to also agree that there are no improvements necessary for the phase 2 development. That's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Bernie, your hand was raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear to Lisa, because I don't think Wayne or I were super clear about this. I meant to say it during my introduction. So 440 Hartford Turnpike has been sold to a different entity entirely. So they are now in control of that entity, of that parcel, and have no intention of constructing phase 1. However, as currently written in the conditions of the decision, they are under the obligation to build it until a change is approved. So currently, it specifically states that the obligation shall run with the land, which for anyone at home who doesn't understand that legal speak, it means it's not the owner, it's the property itself that those obligations stick with no matter who owns it. So currently, the new owners are actually still under the obligation and can't move forward until the board hears it and approves it and changes it. So I just want to make that clear. They are not going forward with phase 1, because it sounded like you might have thought that. I just want to make that super clear that.
Well, I guess I want to say I have seen nothing totally confirming that that's not going to happen.
Well, correct as well. Yes, you're right.
So I'm uncomfortable not having confirmation that phase 1 will not happen. And even if phase 1 is not going to happen, I would appreciate town engineering, and maybe Mr. Truman can speak to this right now, although he probably has not had time as well. I would like to have confirmation that none of the sewer and water improvements that we talked about in that very comprehensive permit and report and analysis are needed for phase 2.
Madam Chair, I do appreciate Lisa's comments. Once again, memory like an elephant. You did well, Lisa. Very good. We had originally, and I'll let Fran weigh in a second here. We had approached the town engineer's office to have some discussion about the results of a further study that was done removing phase 1 from the total flows and the impacts that would have. We were then directed by that department to come before this board as a procedural thing. So that's why we're here. The results of our work, as I stated in my letter, are very clear that there was a significant reduction in the infrastructure impacts. So with that said, I would like to have Fran weigh in, Madam Chair, if this is okay, to weigh in on the procedures in terms of the 40B regulations and to address Lisa's comment about the possibility of phase 1 moving forward as the 40B development.
Thank you.
Fran.
So I'd like to give Mr. Zaretti a moment to speak, and then I think I'd like to go over to Mr. Truman if we could. So Mr. Zaretti, please go for it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Lisa, getting back to phase one, I'm going to answer that question that you have, and also I think I can answer the question on the offsite infrastructure. 2 points that need clarification. To transfer the comprehensive permit, I'm going to try to keep this simple terms. 760 CMR 56.05 12B. It's a section they call transfer of permits. It's in the 40B regulation. So there is a statute that addresses that phenomenon. Okay. A transfer requires written confirmation from the subsidizing agency and upon written notice to the ZBA board. I, as the applicant, I am the holder of the comprehensive permit under Smart Growth Design LLC for both phase one and phase two of the original project, respectively. I have not transferred the permit to any person or entity that purchased the other piece of property. So unless I transfer that or assign it to them, there is no permit on that property any longer. So they cannot build phase one in the future. And the new phase one is sold with the intention of putting an industrial building there. And that was set up in the purchase and sale agreement. Nor there was any contingencies about assigning the permits for the 40B on that particular parcel. Second item that Bernie alluded to, I want to elaborate on running the permit running with the property, assuming I didn't assign or transfer the permit. Regarding that, in that same statute that I just quoted, 760 CMR 5605 12B, it quotes in that, after substantial completion of a project, a comprehensive permit shall be deemed and run with the land. So it only runs with the land if they build a project. If they don't build a project, that permit is not valid. And furthermore, if you look at the past history, we had the permit issued, it only lasted 3 years. So there is a sunset provision in a comprehensive permit. If you don't start the project, the permit dies. And we had an extension because we started working on the project. So without transferring the permit, and because it doesn't run with the land, and because the project hasn't started, there's no possibility that phase one can be reactivated on that particular parcel now or in the future. So I just want to make that clear. And in 3 years, if the board decides not to extend a permit, a comprehensive permit, they don't have to. But we did get an extension, but now it's only going to be running with phase two, and it's no longer applicable to phase one. So I just wanted to clear up that. And one last thing, Madam Chairman, and then I'll turn it back. The infrastructure, there was extensive infrastructure involved with the 248 units for both parcels. Because we're now down to 1/3 the size, we are still going to do infrastructure improvements, and we already have it engineered, and we were going to present it to DPW, but DPW said until you go to the ZBA to have this discussion, we can't look at it because it has to have a peer review and all that. So we have the information done. There is work that has to be done off-site, but it's now been substantially reduced, and we have the math to prove what we are going to do. And there's certain sections of the original permit that we're doing, but not the rest of them, because those were involved with the phase one that's no longer there. So those two things have been addressed. Madam Chairman, I think I'm through with my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to continue through with the rest of the board to see comments. Peter?
Yeah, I think I was not part of the board at the time this was initially approved, but I think I'm in very much the same mindset as Ms. Cassette. My impression here with the comprehensive permit process is the idea is to consider the project holistically and consider all aspects of it. And I think that eliminating 2/3 of the project, a whole phase of the project, is sort of self-evidently a substantial change in the permit. I think especially, from what Mr. Zaretti just said, it sounds like that first phase will not be built. I see the regulatory language regarding a reduction in the number of units not being typically a substantial change, but I think this isn't just a slight reduction in the number of units. This is decreasing the size of the project by more than half. And so it seems to me that it at least deserves sort of a second look, at least from where I'm standing. I mean, I don't know how you could look at the proposed change and say that this isn't a substantial change in what was approved under the comprehensive permit. Bernie, you look like you're about to say something.
No, I think Bernie's fine. I think, thank you. Well, I'm speaking for Bernie, but thank you, Peter.
Madam Chair, after other board members make comment, can you come around to me one more time?
I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome.
Mr. Fullen, are you full of questions?
No, I'm not full of them like Lisa, but I agree with what Lisa was saying earlier. I'm just kind of confused as to when they're speaking of the infrastructure that of the sewer line and stuff like this, and the proposed changes from what they were to what they are going to be. How does that differ?
I think Andy Truman can probably address that best. We don't have that information this evening. We have the letter before us, and that is something you as a board member need to contemplate during today's meeting. So Andy, I don't know if you want to speak to infrastructure.
Sure, everyone's ready. Thank you, Madam Chairman, Andy Truman, the town engineer. So yes, the applicants have been meeting with us offline probably, I think, fall of last year. We kind of had some initial conversations that the project may be going in a different direction. But as some of the board members there was a fairly intense study by both AECom and Weston and Sampson as far as the upgrades and requirements to the existing sewer system in that neighborhood. And without getting into too many details, there's a fairly lengthy AECom memo that was attached as part of the original decision, which identified, what sections of the system need to be upgraded depending on which phase was done. So even if phase 2 only moves forward, there's still 5 or 6 sections of the sewer that need to be reviewed and rehabilitated. And then there still needs to be a study with the 2 pump stations that will be serving this neighborhood, which is the Stony Hill pump station and the Cherry Street pump station. So what we feel is that we need to get our peer reviewer in Weston Sampson, who's the town's consultant for the sewer, to help us make these determinations based on the reduced scope as to what needs to be done. And in order to do that, obviously we need to set up an account to, get some funds into there so that we can pay them, because, we won't be paying for this out of our general sewer fund. So that's why we recommended to at least, start the process with the ZBA, and then we can, once that moves forward, we can set up the account and start having the discussions, offline and figure out what we need to do for the sewer still. And again, the water line too. There's also a requirement to upgrade the water main too, which is another thing we still have to review. So happy to answer any other questions if you have any.
Thank you. Mr. Zaretti, I'm going to hold off on 1 minute. Let Ms. Cosec go first, and then we'll circle back to you. Lisa.
Actually, I'd love to hear from Fran first.
Okay, is that okay?
Yeah.
Fran, I guess we're going to go back to you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Madam Chairman, I'd like to address Patrick and Peter's comments also in terms of a significant change regarding infrastructure. By the ZBA law, in terms of Chapter 40B, it's an insubstantial change because there's a reduction in units. However, the anxiety of the substantial change, because it's a big change in the project, is different from what the regulation says is a substantial change. But addressing the infrastructure, we are going to be coming in for modification of the comprehensive permit with the ZBA. And at that point, the offsite infrastructure will be vetted through the process that Andy just mentioned, that we will submit our findings to the DPW, and they will vet it out to Weston and Sampson to go over the 2 pump stations and the 5 sections of pipe and discussing the water main. So that'll be vetted on a different venue. Tonight's situation is only about the substantial changes regarding to 40B, but there'll be another bite at the apple to go over the significance that you alluded to in the modification of the permit and that particular process. But that isn't applicable to tonight's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zaretti. Ms. Cosette. Can't hear you. Cannot hear
Okay.
Lisa. There we
Okay.
go.
So thank you so much. This has been very, very helpful. A couple comments I'd like to make. To Mr. Mulcahy's comment about it being a substantial change that we're getting rid of a whole phase, I agree, but I will say during that whole comprehensive permit process, the appellant did present these in two distinct phases, and we knew that the development would be done separately. So I'm less worried about that. I think this was always presented to the public and to us as two separate phases, and we thought maybe phase 2 wouldn't happen because of the market or whatnot, and we all just thought phase 1 would go forth, and that was the largest component of this. So I agree that the change in, just including phase 2 now going forward is insubstantial in my mind. And I think it's been clarified now that the improvements made to water and sewer they're going to be vetted and carefully looked at outside of this decision before us. What confused me, I think, was the letter that we got requesting the modification. It included language about the no longer doing the water and sewer improvements that were explained in the comprehensive permit, and I got a little worried. So I think Mr. Zaretti and Mr. Bellick have answered my concerns, and certainly Mr. Truman, that those will be looked at very carefully and the improvements will be made. So I'll just say I'm much less concerned about this modification before us.
So I think at this point, I'd like to close the public hearing, if I could. I think we've heard from everyone adequately. So can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Public meeting.
Public meeting, I'm sorry. Motion to close the public meeting.
Motion to close.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor. Lisa?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Mary Beth, aye. Wonderful. Okay, so let's start back with Lisa, if we could.
So we're deliberating.
Yeah, we're deliberating. Well, wait a minute. Bernie just did a big. Bernie, are you good?
No, yeah. I mean, the state regs don't make it very clear the process for this.
We have to vote.
We do have to vote and we do have to deliberate. So I just want to make a point that, while we're done taking comments or any feedback from the applicant at this point, so the board is free to discuss amongst themselves how they feel on this project. I would note that I've lost my train of thought already, of course.
Late.
Yeah, no. So what I wanted to say was that, my opinion is, and I know Mary Beth was going to ask me, I think at the end, but I'll just say it now, is that the planning department actually does think that this is a substantial change. We've been pretty clear with the developer appellant the entire time that we believe this is the case. I believe Andy Truman finds us, I don't want to speak for him, but we have been in conversation, so I'll let him weigh in, so maybe I won't speak for him. But pretty much, also to the point about the offsite infrastructure improvements being outside of the scope of this, I would disagree quite firmly with that. In fact, the conditions and the waivers of the decision itself that were signed in 2016 all specifically mention offsite infrastructure improvements,
right.
Water main extensions, improvements to sewer, et cetera, et cetera. And while the letter states that there are changes to be made for this, we don't know what the scope of those changes are, what they look like, the details, et cetera. Furthermore, there are other parts of the decision which will be affected by this. And since the state gives no guidance on what happens when an insubstantial change is found, we're kind of left as staff in the dark here. We're going to be kind of making things up on the fly since the state didn't bother to give us guidelines on an insubstantial change for devising how are we going to exactly modify this decision, how will it be brought before the board, etc. So with that said, I will go back to you, Madam Chair. I didn't mean to step on everyone's toes, but I just wanted to throw that out there, kind of the planning department's opinion on this. And our finding is definitely that we believe, or the department believes, that it is a substantial change.
Thank you, Bernie. That's very helpful information. This is all very helpful. It's hard to not, the size and scope of it has changed so substantially in my mind that it's really hard to not see it that way. That's my opinion. And I know that a lot of time and effort's been put into this, and I would to some degree acquiesce to Lisa, since she is the only member of the board that actually sat through the whole comprehensive permitting aspect to this. So I appreciate all the commentary from you, Lisa.
Yeah.
So
So
I'd like
oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So I started off saying I think it's a substantial change, and despite what I've heard tonight, I still think it's a substantial change. I just feel better about it. That's all. But I would rule that it is a substantial change, and I could be the only one. But I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
And I would appreciate, again, I'll just restate it, I'd like to know more about how this is going to change the project. So
right,
I do believe it will.
Peter, can we get some comment from you or feedback?
Yeah, I think my instinct generally is to sort of follow Lisa's lead, where she was on the board at the time, and I think it sounds like she believes it's substantial. My reaction, not having been on the board and reading it, is that it's substantial. Hearing Madam Chair agree with that, and also hearing the planning board agree with that, sort of solidifies my feeling that it's substantial. I have an open mind, but I haven't heard anything to the contrary. And again, in terms of what the regulations say, they do not say that as a matter of law that if you reduce the number of units, therefore it's an insubstantial change. It says that that's generally a substantial change. And I think it's a context specific inquiry. Sorry about the cat. Every time I talk, the cat, he's completely silent. Completely silent the rest of the time. And as soon as I speak, he starts meowing. But for, I just think, yeah, I think that it seems pretty substantial to me.
Okay. Patrick, can we get your comments?
Yeah, I thought it's been a substantial change since the beginning, and I've heard a lot of different viewpoints from different sides here. But what I really wanted to know has been answered to me, so I would go with substantial also.
So I think it's fair at this point to, Bernie, do you have guidance for us on next steps, just so I follow this the correct way?
Yeah, Mary Beth, I don't think you actually stated an opinion one way or another, or added to the discussion of the deliberations. Did you want to say something first?
So my comments were, first of all, I would agree with Lisa in that receiving all of this volume of information that we have to try to understand, on Friday afternoon, to me was really difficult. And I did spend a lot of time reading through it, and I was more confused as the more I read. I absolutely believe that the comprehensive permit process that we went through was substantial, if that's the right word. And I personally feel that the scope and the size of this is a substantial change. That is my opinion. So I think we kind of know where we stand at this point. I do think we've given enough time for public commentary, and I do think we probably need to move it to a vote, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So I think I would recommend to the board that you make a motion to direct the town planner to draft so I wrote this down, to draft a written decision stating that the board found the proposed changes to be substantial due to, and I'll let you fill in the blanks. I just kind of pulled that together. So you're going to say, you say I would make a motion that the board direct the town planner to draft a written decision stating that the board found the proposed changes to be substantial due to
Okay.
size and
Okay.
scale of the proposed changes to offsite, whatever you want, offsite water and sewer. What else did I hear?
So I would say traffic impact was something that we
Modification. Yeah, for example. So I'll let you guys fill in the blanks on that one.
Impact to the water sewer is something, and can I get a motion to direct the town planner to draft a letter with the conditions surrounding traffic impact, conditions of the decision, impact of water and sewer? I think that covers it, but I want to make sure, and I apologize for not being completely sure of myself on this one, but I don't want to sell this process short either. So, Ms. Cosette, do we have everything covered, would you say?
You're on,
So we
you're on
can hear
mute,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Yeah.
Sorry, every time I try to write something, I mute myself. So I just want a moment to just rephrase that a little bit.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
So please do.
Okay. Okay. Commission to draft a letter. Okay. I make a motion to ask the town planner to draft a letter determining that the, oh my gosh. Hold on a second. That the modification to the comprehensive permit is a substantial, change to the permit based on a significant decrease in number of units. And its impact to offsite water and sewer system. I'll leave it at that. It's missing something about phase 1, but that's my motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, Lisa?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Mary Beth, aye. So unanimously moved as a substantial change.
Thank you. I will draft the decision tomorrow, and I will probably just have Mary Beth sign it on behalf of the board, and then submit it to the appellant. Okay, but all of you will get a copy of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Last on.
wanted to thank you
Yes.
folks again tonight. Thank you again for your valuable time. Much appreciated. And we appreciate the efforts of town staff. So much appreciated. Thank you all. Stay safe and healthy. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, Mr. Bellick. Thank you for your time, everyone. Okay, so we've got a correspondence. Last order of business is a correspondence with regard to 727 Hartford Turnpike, Fiore's Automotive and TJCF. Do I have to read the? No. Okay, this is an update to the site plan for the hearing at 727 Boston Hartford Turnpike. Do I need to do anything further on that, Bernie? Just mention it.
No,
Okay.
just if anyone has any comments, the applicant updated the site plan in accordance with the conditions of the ZBA. So we just wanted to make you aware of that when they went to selectmen, they had followed through on what you had conditioned.
It's always nice to hear that people are listening to us. That's good. Appreciate that. Okay, well, I think without further ado, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the meeting for tonight.
Motion to close.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, Lisa Cosette,
Aye.
Peter Mulcahy,
Aye.
Meow.
that was an aye. Meow.
Now he fell asleep or something. He's fine now, I guess.
Patrick Fullen,
Aye.
Paul George,
Aye.
Mary Beth Lynch, aye. So moved. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you so much for all your help on Bernie and Rowan and everyone else.
Thank all of you. All right.
Sarah, thank you. Kristen Rapolo, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night.